Welcome to the video about my August finished works, and I want to start from the book by Crystal Vogle, book about mermaids, where I did birthday party. If you follow my channel, you know that for fun I love to color something with birthday attributes, birthday party for my own birthday. So this year I decided to do a page from Crystal Vogle because I totally fall in love with those dolphins. They are so positive, so lovely, and of course those turtles also are very nice. I love that Crystal Vogle, she managed to color very realistic animals, and in the same time they have very lovely, even smiley faces. So very nice book and very nice picture. I decided to do quick watercolor background. This paper works with watercolor quite well, and also to make coloring quicker I did Inktense underpaint on dolphins. So definitely in the future when I color this book I will use Inktense and watercolors. First because it's the best way to do water background for all these pictures, and I'm also happy that my Inktense, they are not sitting idly inside of the pencil box like they did during many years after I stopped to color Lizzie Mary Cullen's book. Now I use them much more frequently, and in August I used them for several works and I absolutely love to work with them. So this one I did also with polychromos pencils, and yes, I think that it looks quite lovely, quite festive. At least I enjoyed doing this one. I definitely didn't enjoy doing the Year of Witches. It's stupid story how every time I complain about this book, but I continue to color in it. Usually it happens when I see some lovely pictures by Usiku colored by some other colorists on Instagram, and I think that no, I need to give this book another chance. And I already did so many pictures here. Some of them are decent, some of them are not good, but I continue because I love to fill in books where I already have many finished pictures. So let me show you this Midsummer Night. Well, this background, it was difficult for me to build dark blue color, but dark blue but with some gradient, lighter near the lantern and darker closer to the water line. As usual, markers didn't blend, so I had to add a little bit of gouache on top of it. And honestly, when you on the first step struggle so much with markers, I also wasn't happy how I did leaves here. Then you don't want to spend time carefully doing the rest of the page. I must confess that I simply wanted to finish it quickly because I don't like to leave unfinished pictures. But I lost half of my inspiration after this not very successful water leaves. Girls are okay, but the rest, well, not great. Yeah, another one done here, and I know that next month I will try to do another page here. So my hate and love relationship with pictures by Usiku printed on awful paper, the story continues. Okay, next one is Urban Anna coloring book. And that's a book where I'm still struggling to color with watercolors, but where I absolutely love to use my water-soluble pencils. All my sets, which I hadn't touched in years, like graphitins, like Kohinoor Mondeluz, like Inktense, finally they have this perfect book. And when I do pictures here, I'm not even ashamed to copy the original art. Usually I don't do such things. Even if I know that there is a full color art, like Jasmine Beckett Griffiths do such things or other artists, I try not to copy. But here I consider it as a learning moment to use the original art, trying to recreate, to look at highlights, at reflections. So let me show you what I did in August. I did the patisserie. Yes, definitely it was helpful studying how she did all those shadows, reflections inside of the windows and shop window, all those falling shadows. And again, I used my graphitins, I used my Inktense and a little bit of watercolor for the wall of the first floor. The only thing which I would maybe change here, it's color which I selected for the window here. It's maybe too turquoise, too viridian. Maybe I had to use more calm shade of blue-green color, but the rest of it I do love. And apart from patisserie, I also did this hardware store. Again, I used very similar colors. One watercolor to create basic color for the walls, and then all work done with Inktense pencils. Also graphitins and their shades of gray, they here finally, they are very useful, and I had them for like 3 years and I hadn't touched them, and finally paper is good for them. I really learned couple of new tricks how to use them dry on dry or wet on dry, so definitely for me it was very helpful study. I am proud how I managed to copy the original look of the upper windows, all those shadows on the white curtains. I think that I copied it in a very good way, so I am not ashamed to copy. Next one. I think that page which I did in Around the World, it was the least favorite, least successful so far which I did in this book. Yes, I had some strange experiments here where my stencils background looks strange, but usually when I do a normal picture, I love them. Taj Mahal, which I colored in August, I still have a lot of doubts. I think that I need to stop playing with these markers and to work more with pencils. In such way I will have more decent result. Of course, it's tempting to work on this thin paper with markers. It helps you to do very quick sky or those shapes of the trees, water, so things which are not very interesting, honestly. For me, it's interesting to color building, to color frog and snail, so that's why I mostly use markers for the background. But on the other side, sometimes such background, it looks, I don't know, too simplified, too cheap. Maybe that's my limited skills. I don't know what is bothering me here. Maybe those lines on the sky where markers didn't blend very smooth. Maybe not enough contrast on the arch. My markers, some of them started to end and I was a little bit disappointed, and I decided that I don't want to spend more time working more diligently on this architectural element. But let's concentrate on the good things. On Mr. Fogarty, I deliberately put on him this strange costume and colors, this violet, purple. They were inspired by famous picture by Princess Diana when she took picture in front of Taj Mahal totally alone. Very famous picture, and I decided for fun to use some of these colors from her costume for Mr. Fogarty. But I am glad that he is not alone. They always are together with Mr. Snail. Eyes of Mr. Snail, it's my favorite part here. Also, I was slightly confused how I can color Taj Mahal, because building is normally in white marble, but I wanted to put a little bit of golden shine, a little bit of pink or color similar to clay rose to add some shadows. So for me it was difficult to continue keeping it light, almost white, but to add some color accents and shadows. This work with markers I do love. The rest not so much. I especially dislike this white outline, very rough, which I did on the smoke. That's totally on me. Sometimes when I rush and want to finish page quicker, because that definitely wasn't the most interesting element and I wanted to finish it quicker, sometimes it could ruin the whole work, because now it doesn't look quite well and it distracts attention from the page. Okay, let's hope that the next picture, and I only need to do like 5 to finish this book, or maybe 5, maybe 4, so let's hope that the next one will be better. Actually, August was definitely a botanical illustration month. I colored a lot of plants, a lot of flowers, but also a lot of animals. And let's start from these 2 tiny pictures. It's again my set of postcards with pictures by Cecily Mary Baker, pictures which I color on Strathmore toned paper. I absolutely love to color on this paper, but I always have problems with filming. I don't know why, but my camera, it hates when I color on this paper. On the video, all contrasts, all colors always mess it up. So usually when I look at video, I am very disappointed. But pictures, they are not bad. Some ideas, of course, I copied from the original art by Cecily Mary Baker, and some colors I added by myself. Between those two, my preference goes to the Herb 2 pens. It was more interesting for me to work with this limited color palette, and I really tried to do this dreamy, slightly misty background with a little bit of halo around the boy's head. I blended a little bit of blue with gray, or a little bit of green with gray to create all those shades on the stone and on the background. And yellow here really works quite well with the rest of colors. The thrift also lovely, but here I struggled so much to do the decent cover on the background, and I'm still not sure that I did it in the right way and that it doesn't look very dirty in this corner. So those flowers, yeah, they are okay, but maybe I had to work with harder pencils to be able to color all of the petals more carefully. Well, anyway, if I select between two, I would select Herb 2 pens, but both postcards, they are lovely, and even if I move very slowly through this set, still at least one picture in 2 months, I think that it's a good progress. And yes, also for me it was interesting study how to work on this toned paper. It's very different from work on white paper and from work on smooth paper, which we usually have in coloring books. Next, in Crystal Vogle, I would love to show you my lavender fairy. Yes, I even managed to find page without bookmark. When I discovered that on this paper I can work with my budget sets like Arteza, like Artix or Sucolor, I decided that, well, it will be a good moment to use actually those sets which I have, which I enjoy on many papers, but I don't use very frequently. I usually color with Prismacolors, with polychromoses, but if budget sets, Chinese sets work well, why wouldn't I use other sets which I own? So here I have this lavender, a lot of lavender flowers. I tried to do small variation in color, so slightly more bluish violet and more purple violet, but maybe it's not very visible in the end. As usual, the step which bothered me the most and which almost ruined the page is this background. Usually, if it's possible, I try to do more defined background on all my last works. Sometimes it could be a circle, sometimes I do vertical frame, but here with such shape of the leaves, I had any ideas how I can add my own background, my own frame. So I did this soft edge of this background, and I don't know why this yellow now looks so vibrant. I wanted slightly more pale color. Well, definitely paler yellow wouldn't look so intense and so distractive. Apart from the background, the rest I do love. All those tiny but adorable details here, like those crying babies, which the forest gnome probably, she brought the babies maybe to search for help, to calm down crying baby, and lavender, I hope, will help them. So it's very lovely details. I like to find them on pictures by Crystal Vogle to color them. So next time I promised myself to do something more normal, more calm for the background, and it will be okay. I would say that the absolute favorite of my August was Faune Fragile by Brun. This French book, it was waiting for its time for almost a year, and now when I started to color here, I just can't stop. Paper is good for water-soluble art supplies. You can use watercolor or you can use water-soluble pencils. And that's exactly what I did. I used everything here. Let's start from the most vibrant finished picture. I don't know why I decided to start this one. Maybe I saw somewhere on social media beautiful pictures with corals, and I decided to find something where I can color underwater world. So I did this one, and here I used many medium, starting from watercolor for parts of the background. So for those seaweeds or leaves, I used ink tents. Then the seahorse I did with polychromasis because I wanted it to have a lot of yellow, orange and some dark colors, and I know that colors like caput mortuum always works as a nice shading color for green, for yellow, for orange. So I simply used one of my favorite color combos on the seahorse. And then experiment started where I had to color all those corals, other creatures here, and I used several of my rarely used watercolors, all those cream, peach, brown colors which I don't use frequently, but here they worked really well. Then Prismacolor pencils for the rest. I had my own reasons for such selection. Here I already explained. Here I knew that I wanted a blend of muted turquoise with jade green, so I had to switch from polychromos to Prismacolors because these colors are unique. Here I knew that I wanted salmon pink as a highlighted color, so again that's why I started to do it with Prismacolors. Maybe it looked crazy in videos that each part I started with new art supplies, but sometimes when I want to use some unique color, it also defines which brand of pencils I will be using next. Okay, so the next one, it's fish. Sorry, I forgot the name of the fish, but when I looked at the reference pictures, I immediately fall in love because she's maybe not extremely vibrant, but in the same time it's very shiny, a lot of pearl dots, beautiful veils. So fish, really beautiful. And I decided that I don't care if violet water looks strange. I decided to go for slightly more fantasy background because this purple violet or reddish violet, it complemented very well all colors, starting from the fish, with this orange highlights and blue highlights, and two other colors which I selected for the seaweeds. Here another good experiment with many Inktense pencils. I think that they look lovely, those seaweeds. Here I used polychromases because in polychromases I love this light green and phthalo green together and lovely shades of orange. I think that this one definitely is one of my favorites for August. When I finished this fish, I was proud of myself, definitely very happy. And the third, I did it because in August we had Ukrainian color-along color with Ukraine, and the theme was desert, sand and cacti. In this book we have a lot of lovely cacti page. I love to color them. This one I selected because it has not only cactus but also some succulents and flowers. You know that even if cacti maybe they don't look very spectacular, but their flowers usually are huge, beautiful, sadly only for a short time, but still it's always, for me it always was a miracle that such plants they can produce such beautiful flowers. Well, not everything here went quite well. Some blends looked slightly strange. Maybe those needles which I added, they are too thick, not according to the size. But what I do love, it's my background. I used just one color of granulating watercolor. It's Ukrainian paint. Color is cobalt gray or cobalt brown, sorry, I don't remember. I purchased it because I saw some nice swatches, but for myself I never knew before where to use it. And finally I used it here. If I look closer, I can see very interesting gradients. A little bit of gray, some pink or even peach color, something a little bit of blue into brown. Well, nice watercolor here. I think that it created a simple, beautiful, interesting and quick background. My favorite plant here is this tiny kind of succulent like agave. I am subscribed to a couple of Instagram profiles where people show beautiful pictures of their cacti and colorful succulents, so it was very easy to just search there for interesting color combos on the plants, and believe me, color combo of green and purple, it was even modest. I'm always surprised how colorful they can be. It's also a miracle that such plants they exist. Lovely page, and I'm extremely happy how I did a progress in this book in just 1 month. And of course I want to color much more, because here I don't need to limit myself in art supply selection. All my paints, all my pencils, all work well on this paper, and many of the art supplies which I don't use frequently, here they are very helpful. Next, one page done in Leon's Journey by Kanoka Yaguza, and here I decided to experiment with paper and watercolor. I can't say that I loved how this coloring started with watercolor background, which I did on 2 pictures. Well, not bad, nothing bleeded through, but I simply didn't like those stains which I got from adding slightly bigger amount of water. Not bad, but definitely I don't intend to continue this experiment in the nearest future. Maybe someday later, but definitely with Prismacolors I can achieve more accurate, better results, even if it's longer. So the rest I did with Prismacolors. I really tried to make them as parts of the story, so some connections like similar background, repeated colors, and to create some well-balanced page. I finally decided about colors for Lily. If you look closer at all my finished pictures here, Leon is colored in the same way through the whole finished pictures. For Lily, I changed colors a little bit. First she was completely white, then I added darker areas only around her eyes, and finally here I decided that for the future she will have those front paws with darker fingers and dark gray front of the face with blue eyes. So this will be an example, and in such way Lily and Leon I will do through the whole book, because I really love that here we can see the story with the same characters. As I said, August was very botanical month, and I colored in my both books by Leila Duly, I mean Walk in the Woods and Beautiful Planet. Here, why I forgot all my bookmarks. So here I did this hare, wild rabbit, and that's mix of pencils to achieve the effect of relatively soft pastel background, which I did with light shades of Prismacolor and maybe couple of polychromos for greenery. And then it was also a mix. Leaves and grass I mostly did with polychromoses, only here Prismacolors. I decided from the beginning that I will try to do different colors for the greenery, but the most vibrant color accents, of course, will be on these flowers around the hair and on these smaller flowers near the bottom part. That's Prismacolors. You know, when I finished to color fur here, I was proud of myself. This type of fur, when you want to show the blend of beige, gray, brown and even yellowish colors, sometimes it's very difficult. As usual, I combined harder and softer pencils, I mean Prismacolors and polychromoses together, and I looked at reference pictures which helped me to select colors on the head, which was the most complicated, because fur is growing in different directions on the different parts. Fur also has different not all fur has shorter or longer hairs, so longer on the sides and shorter on the nose. Those yellow colors blended with gray. First I thought that maybe it was too big challenge which I did for myself, but now I think that everything worked quite well. I do love how I did the light fur on the central part of the chest, on the body. It kind of helped me to create the focal point here, but of course the head of the hair, it's my it was the element of which I was proud the most. Definitely it will go into my collection of the best colored animals. I have such collection on Patreon. I was so encouraged by this successful coloring, which I was afraid to start, but in the end I was proud. So I decided to do something huge and somehow to celebrate the last months of summer. Unfortunately, with the huge picture which I selected, I didn't have enough time to finish it, but who cares? I will finish it in September because I am very happy with my current progress. I don't rush, I color one by one those flowers. I started from poppies, then I did this cosmos flowers, and currently I am working on the smaller elements. I just added those yellow flowers, and next I will work on the foxglows. They are even smaller, but I will try to do them in nice way, trying to select interesting colors. Yes, the last step to do all the leaves probably won't be very interesting, but so far I absolutely love it. For me the key is to make breaks. I do part of it, like I colored poppies. I did a break. Then I feel like I want to color in this book again. I returned and I did all pink flowers. So slow work, very satisfying. I love to do botanical illustrations and I absolutely love to work in books by Leila Duly. I hope that in the end of September I will show you the finished work. Okay, next will be books by Teresa Goodrich. In Small Town Charm, I did a page with wooden porch. Here, I tried to do an evening page. I realized that I miss doing evening or night scenes in Teresa Goodrich books where I can select one source of light. Here we have this lantern, which creates very nice warm highlights and reflections on the nearest surfaces. And then it was fun to color all those wooden elements. Those painted chairs, I wanted to make them slightly worn out, so some colors are already faded and it look pale, some are still dark. Wooden floor, wooden walls. The only element which I absolutely disliked here, it was those daffodils. Out of season for me, and because here we also have kind of dahlias, and I simply disliked that they were huge. If they would be smaller, everything would look more harmonical. They distract attention from the small but lovely building on the background. But at least I love the rest of these flowers, and as usual I struggle a little bit how to color dogs in Teresa books, but this one definitely is lovely. As usual I searched for some reference pictures, and this dog with generally white or light gray fur and several sienna brown spots, it immediately attracted me and I decided to put it into my book. Second picture I did in Home Sweet Home. It's a page with shelves or cupboard, and because I already colored many wooden things and many colorful furniture in kitchen jar, this time I decided that I don't want to use anything brown, beige or similar, and my shelves here, they are of faded blue color. I think that it was a good choice because this color created very good contrast for everything which is standing on the shelves. There are some things which I love a little bit more, like those lanterns or this jar with pink flowers. Something maybe was less successful, like this basket with apples. But in the end, I think that it's lovely, a little bit original, and I simply relaxed when I did all those painted wooden panels in front and inside of the shelves. It was interesting, and for me, yes, it also was an interesting practice how to do painted wood. The last page which I want to show you is in Nelko Neko. It was unexpected start. I planned to do different pictures, but somehow I did page with this cat dressed like rabbit, and of course that's part of Alice in Wonderland story. Before I started this one, I had the idea that background here I want to do similar to the back of playing cards, so maybe with some checkered pattern, and I wanted to do it with stencils. Beginning was totally ruined. I did acrylic background. I didn't manage to cover paper nicely because paint was semi-transparent, semi-opaque, and then stencils and distress oxide, they only created dirt. I even managed to put dirt on the white flowers. I didn't mask them very carefully. Of course, I really dislike when the first step, the first moment of coloring, it goes totally wrong. But page is so lovely that I was determined that I would never abandon such a lovely page. In the end, I decided that, well, I don't mind to have simple plain one color background, and acrylic paint actually it can help you to save almost everything. So with second and even third layer of the same paint, I masked all my ugly attempts to do stencil ornament, and now it has this lovely color. I think that it's quite good. Somehow on the screen it looks worse. In real life it looks more even like velvet. And finally, after I struggled with this one, the rest I did quite easily. You know that I love to color metals, so cloak was easy to do. Probably the most challenging part for me was shading on the light elements. First on the head of the rabbit, and you can see that I tried to add a little bit of shading, and then even the delicate lines of Nelko Neko line art, I still covered it with acrylic paint to add more fluffy texture on ears and along the sides of the head. On the white roses, I decided to use more original shading. They still look white, but at least between petals I added shadows and they look more three-dimensional. I also did more colorful leaves, pinkish tips with green leaves. Well, for such fantasy picture, I think that it worked quite well. I don't know if I intend to use such color combo for my next pictures with flowers and roses. Maybe, because it definitely looks better rather than doing simple green leaves without any additional colors. So what started as a big disaster, I think that in the end it's my second favorite finished picture of August, together with that fish. So with this one I can say that I am very happy with my August results. Definitely I will continue to work in this book in September. I wish I could do maybe 2 pictures because I can't decide which is the best for me. One with vegetable market, one with the forest house. I hope that I will do 2. And I definitely intend to color in Nelko Neko, which would be the rest of the books which I select for September. We will see. At least August was good. Thank you for watching, and until the next videos.